Hey tubers, welcome back for another adventure. So my wife's kind of on my cage to clean up this whole mess here, and I figured I'd start with what I thought was the most interesting. This is known as an EZGO 1995, almost a quarter century old. It's a GXT 804 dog. So there it is. I got this from a friend of mine, and I paid a lot of money for it, probably too much. I gave him $1,000, which was kind of heavy freight for something that's not necessarily running at the moment. And he guarantees me it's in good shape. He put a new timing belt into it and so forth. But I'm already seeing some interesting stuff, right? Some nice hacked up wires. I'm told if you lift this switch up, it starts, and if you turn it down to close, it turns off. He did replace the starter alternator in it. It says he put in one of those China ones, whatever that means. I'm not thinking it means anything good. He says last time he went to start it, he had trouble turning it over, so then he kind of turned the pulley and it went around, but he didn't indicate if it started or not. So I'm beginning to think it did not. I know it hasn't been used in a little while, so probably that carburetor has to come off. However that happens, I'm just looking at it, I'm not seeing any bolts on it. So, yeah, I'm not quite sure how that comes off. I guess we'll figure it out when we get to it. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out by putting a battery in here and giving it a little hoot of starting fluid. And we'll see what it does. We'll see what it sounds like. And from there we'll make some decisions. Okay, let's do some troubleshooting here. And we all know the following, that when you step on the gas pedal, right here, right, what it does is it engages the alternator starter. When the engine is running slowly, it's acting as a starter and turns the engine over. And once the engine starts and that thing is turning faster, it generates electricity, which charges your battery. The way you connect and disconnect the alternator starter to the battery, whether you're using it to charge the battery or whatever you're trying to do, is this little contactor here, this little relay here. And basically to turn this on, you apply ground here, obviously power in one side, starter alternator out the other, ground here, and you put power here. Now to turn on power to this guy, you want two things to be true. You want the switch to be on, right, the key switch, which they have this toggle switch, and they want you to push this pedal. So when you push the pedal, hopefully I'm going to be able to show you this well. If you push the pedal, see that little micro switch here, right there? Well, when you push the pedal, that switch pops out, which, assuming this is turned on, allows power to go to that starter. And once again, if you're running it slowly, it's acting like a starter, and if you turn it faster, it acts like an alternator. Well, I did some troubleshooting, and it appears as if no matter how many times I step on the pedal, shake the pedal, or fool around with the switch right there, I cannot get that switch to pass power. So I did a little bypass. That's what all these wires, red wires are here. So right now, as soon as I turn this on, it puts power right to my starter. Okay, and what I did is the black wire here goes to the meter, the other side of the meter is on ground. So when I turn that switch on, I'm going to put power directly to my starter, and you'll see the meter come up. But starter no go around. Normally when that happens, there's a couple of things you could do. You get out your hammer and you give the starter a couple of taps and you see if you can bring it back to life that way. And I did, and it didn't come back to life. The second thing I did is I turned, the starter up against the compression and then backed it off so that it'd be starting an easy spot, and kind of shook it and rattled it and so forth, and I got nothing. Given that this looks to be a relatively young starter, now it's kind of time to take it off and get in a little deeper. So I'm going to end the troubleshooting here because I more or less know what I need to do. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this switch here, and what this switch does, if you watch it, well, it's obvious what that switch does. That's the backup alarm switch. It appears to be the same exact micro switch as the relay, or the micro switch down there for the starting relay. So I'm going to swap those two, and you guys don't need to see me do it because I really don't need a backup alarm. Probably I'll take that dead switch and put it up here, and maybe for the low current or lower current application, I'm sure the backup alarm uses less power than the contactor relay here. So I'm probably going to just swap those two switches, and I think what I also need to do is pull that starter off and see if I can't bring it to life. From sitting, my guess is the brushes are tarnished or dirty or jumped out a spot or something like that. And I'll fire up the camera again when I pull the starter out. Maybe I'll fire it up for as I'm pulling the starter out and as I'm fixing it. But at this point, I guess we've more or less narrowed down what the issue is. So I'm going to kind of end this here, and then there'll be, let's pull the starter and figure out if we can fix it type videos as follow-ons. I'm a little disappointed because now, if it was just a matter of starting this thing, as in, okay, I got to clean the carburetor, it's running, everything is good, that's one situation. But if I actually have to pop for a starter at a couple of $100, now it's getting to the point where, I have all the money this thing is worth into it, and maybe a little bit. I've seen these sell as high as $2,400, but for $2,400 they look prettier than this. So being into it for $1,000, I considered okay, considering I thought I knew the history of it. Once again, if I got to start putting a couple $100 worth of starters into it, it's beginning to creep up. Because I'm also not sure what else is wrong with this thing until I actually get it running. I mean, it's worth a little more because it's got the cage on it, perhaps. I don't know. Maybe it's worth somewhere around $2,000, but I liked it a lot better when I had $1,000 invested in it and would probably run than if I get over $1,000 invested in it. And at that point, even if I put the starter in it, it's still not running, is it? So there we are. Not all deals are runaway winners. I'm hoping this one turns out, but at this point, it's I'm a little disappointed. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for dropping by to watch and comment and subscribe. Please remember to keep your feet down, your heads up, and get out and enjoy each and every day. Bye now.